All right. I believe we are live. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's episode of MMA Live Thursday night stream. I'm your host, Nick, and we got a very special episode. This week we're going to be going over California Fighting Championship 2, Bellator 197, and Fox on UFC on Fox 29 this week. And then I have a special guest with us. He is going to be fighting on Bellator 199. It will be his second pro fight. Khai the Shadow Wu. How are you doing, Khai?
Good. How are you doing, Nick? Thanks for having me on here.
Thanks for joining us, man. I think last time I talked to you, you were still amateur. I believe you finished 3-1.
Yes, that is correct.
The last one was a little questionable.
Yeah, I get that a lot, but it's okay. It's in the past now.
Right on. Yeah. So then your last fight, you went to Taiwan, right?
That is correct. I went to Taiwan. I fought in my mother's home country, and I grew up in Taiwan from from third grade to fifth grade. So I went back there to learn Mandarin.
Oh wow. So you speak it fluently?
Yeah, I'd say I'd speak Mandarin fluently, but according to my mom and my dad, I need a lot of improvement.
Is it kind of like English? There's like slang and then foreign or like a formal way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's with most languages. The only difference with Mandarin is it's a little the culture is different. So there's a lot of words that if you directly translate, it sounds weird.
Yeah. That's kind of like the auto captions on here.
Yeah, definitely.
So you went over there and it didn't take you very long. You had a first round KO. How long was it? 30 seconds?
I think it was no. I wish it was 30 seconds. I wish it was the fastest one, but unfortunately, it was 51 seconds.
Okay, yeah, you kind of took your time there. Oh yeah, but I don't know. That guy was kind of I don't know too much about him, but I saw the weigh in and where he kind of got in your face, and I think he shoved you, right?
Yeah, he tried to do like this little push thing, and I don't know. I don't know what it was. I was frankly more intimidated because of how light the push was. I was like, oh man, are you setting me up for some failure here? It was a little weird. It's just I think he knew he had to put on a show, but it wasn't a very good one. But I mean, he tried. He helped me look like the good guy really easily. So he played the bad guy role. I took the good guy role. So worked out.
So you already had your first pro fight. You traveled. You got all the nerves out of the way. Do you think now being in a Bellator fighting kind of hometown almost, is it going to be smooth, or are you still going to have that first time jitters?
Oh, I think fighting for Bellator is going to be super fun because I like I don't want to say attention, but I like the pressure. I like pressure when it comes down to fights because when it pays off, it just feels a little bit better. So I was born in San Jose, and then my mom and dad's going to be there. It's Bellator, my second pro fight. I'm fighting in Bellator, such a prestigious, arguably the top two organization in the world. Arguably, it's getting to number one. So to be able to fight for them and to show everybody in the U.S. to make my U.S. soil debut, to just show everybody what I've been working on and against a tough opponent, it's going to be nice.
Who are some of the people who are helping you get ready for this?
So I got my teammates from way back: Roger Sawyers, Nick Cruz, Anthony Galindo, Saquon. These are guys that are just my teammates on a regular basis. But then now I have James Terry. We have BC from he fought in the UFC called Darren. I can't pronounce his last name very well, but he fought in the UFC. He comes in and helps me out every now and then. And then I got a good friend, James Aguilar, that comes in, and he's a taller guy. Jiu-jitsu is solid. So I'm just trying to get all my bases covered, and, my gym's Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu in Richmond, Omni Movement. So I have all my bases covered, I think.
Right on. So I know you're busy training and everything, but can you get away from training this weekend to watch some fights?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. Absolutely. I need it.
We got, like I said, California Fighting Championship going on this Saturday, April 14th at High Country Sports Arena in Sonora, California. Khai is going to be joining me there. We'll be at the event cage side. Let me bring the card up and we'll kind of go over it. Have you got a chance to look at the card, Khai?
Yeah, I have a little bit.
Did anything jump out to you when you're looking at it? Like any matchups that you really wanted to see, or anybody that you actually know?
I think I know. I fought on one of the cards of Omar. I believe this is his third pro fight.
Yeah.
I fought as an amateur with him one time, but I don't really recognize too many names because I think they're from a little different part of California. You know, just because I train in the Bay Area, so it's a little bit different. But I'm excited because I go to Sonora quite often, so I'm very excited to see these guys throw down.
Yeah, I just I know I caught a couple of interviews and got familiar with some names, but just jumping off the paper, I didn't really know anybody. But I think a lot of them are not actually fights in California. I heard a couple of people fighting King of Cage in Nevada and stuff, so their records are kind of funny. They don't reflect their actual records here in Camo.
Yeah, I noticed that they have a couple guys from Texas, Nevada. So it's kind of like they have a decent list of other people coming in. So it's going to be awesome.
So before we get in, a couple of like the records, you'll see a 0-3 or a 6-8. You grew up on the scene, on the Camo scene. What does that tell you when you see that? Do you take the fight lightly when you see that?
You never take a fight lightly. You should never underestimate your opponent. That's one thing a lot of my opponents made a mistake on, and I capitalized on it. You should never, ever underestimate somebody. So I think this is a tough fight no matter a fight's a fight. I don't really agree when people say, oh, this is a give me fight or this is a setup fight. Like we just saw Khabib fight Iaquinta, that wasn't an easy fight. Everybody said it was, but it was tough. So no fight, no matchup is set in my opinion. So every fight you can prove if you're really that good, and if you think this guy's an easy fight, then go out there and make it look as such. You don't need to kind of throw that out there.
Yeah, you kind of have everything to lose at that point. You go out there, you do well while you're supposed to, but if something goes wrong, then oh man.
Mm-hmm.
So starting off the card is a women's fight, Monica Gonzalez versus Alyssa Palin. I don't know much about Monica, but Alyssa, I listened to a few things about listened to a few things in an interview about her. I guess she started fighting as a kid, and then took probably like 4 years off, and then got back into it seriously and started competing.
Yeah, she trains out of Alpha Male, I see. So she must be. There's no easy fights out of Alpha Male, that's for sure.
Right. She's I think this is at a catch weight, and she's working her way down. I think she was at bantamweight for her first fight, and that was just a barn burner. She hits like a truck. She dropped the girl a few times. There's kind of like back and forth, a lot of striking. But I was listening to interviews she did with Dave Madden, NorCal Fight MMA, but she was getting rounds in with Cynthia Calvillo, and her last fight, she had Jamie Moyer, a UFC veteran, and Uriah Faber in her corner. Yeah. So this is not like your typical amateur, hey, I think I want to try this out. She's at a legit gym, putting in the work. She's fighting with, training with pro fighters. I don't know much about Monica Gonzalez, but man, she better bring it.
Yeah, it's a hometown versus somebody that's not too far off. This is going to be an interesting fight because it says she's fighting out of Sonora. So because of that, I think she has to bring, she has her whole family in support. But, I'm not going to count out Alyssa too, because Alyssa has had a fight. So it's definitely an interesting step for Alyssa for her second fight, and then it's a very interesting first step for Monica, who's making her debut.
Have you seen any women's MMA up like live?
Yeah, I've seen a couple. I've seen when I was younger, I saw a couple of the Strikeforce ones, but I haven't seen one in quite a long time, actually.
Yeah, I saw the last 209 beatdown had one. Believe that was the first one. So
That's right. I remember that. I remember that. I think I was there.
yeah, it was a good fight. I still actually people watch it quite a bit. Is Ashley Thiner versus Trista Straight.
Hmm.
Then the next fight that jumped out is Kevin Ford versus. Let me bring it back up here. John Matheson. So
Hmm.
Kevin Ford is listed as this will be his first fight, and he's taking on John Matheson, who is 0-3. But
Yeah.
so Kevin Ford, he actually trains with Oscar Martinez out of Warrior Fit. Oscar Martinez is, of course, the matchmaker and the promoter of this event. He fought last month, technically, on the 31st Gladiators Challenge. He got the victory, but he was trying to fight this card, but I don't think they're gonna let him. But Kevin, I guess he got hurt and was out of training, for like 5 years. But in the last 3 months, he's lost 50 pounds.
Wow, that shows the discipline that he has. That's not easy. Somebody with that mentality and drive definitely can't take him lightly.
Right, I believe this fight is at middleweight, and then he's trying to get down to lightweight is his goal.
Wow, that's huge.
But yeah, that's kind of crazy to be able to lose all that weight, still train, and then compete.
That's not easy.
What was the biggest you ever got out of training?
When I tore my LCL probably 3, 4 years ago, I was out for I think about 6 months or 8 months, and then I dislocated. Well, yeah, that's probably the longest actually. Yeah, 6 months to 8 months.
Did you gain a lot of weight, or did you still try to stay active?
No, 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 no. I was actually lost weight because I was doing pure boxing and conditioning. So I actually didn't, and then I didn't eat like a lot of junk food or anything like that because I wanted to heal as fast as I can. So I actually lost weight. I walked around lower than what my walk around weight was lower than my usual walk around weight. So that was nice.
Oh wow. Are you normally like a big eater, or like after you cut weight, do you have to, have that special meal?
I as long as I get my boba tea after my weigh-ins, I'm good. I can, or I'm good with any like. I keep everything clean. Probably 4 weeks out of my fight, like where I really start honing in, and then yeah, I honestly just need one boba drink after my weigh-ins, and then I go back to eating healthy until my fight. But this time I can't really get out of shape because right after my Bellator fight, I have about a month and a half before I go to Taiwan and fight again.
Is that already signed?
Nothing's signed yet, but there's talks going on.
That's awesome. That's got to be crazy to be able to travel all the way over there, cut weight, and then fight in usually hostile territory. Although, I mean, I think you won over the crowd there with your post-fight speech, speaking the language.
Yeah, I did. I did. I'm actually got a decent following, or I just shouldn't even say following. I should say like fan base out there or people that support. So they're gonna come out to my next fight, and I just appreciate that. So it should be good.
Man, that's awesome. You got it all on the West Coast and then over there as well. The next fight we had is Josh Scott versus Matt Southern. I interviewed Josh Scott. He's out of the Nick Diaz Academy. He lost a few. I think his record's 0-1, but I think it's actually 0-2 or maybe 1-2. But anyways, it's been a while since he's fought, a couple years. And now he's training at the Diaz Academy. So he seems like he's a whole new fighter, he says.
Yeah, both guys look tall. They look tall, so it should be an interesting battle because they're gonna have to fight into each other's range. So I'd like to see how that plays out.
Then the next fight, Sergio Horta versus Gregory Morales. Honestly, I don't really know much about either. I just looking at the records, it's Sergio's debut versus Morales. He's 3-0 now.
Yeah, and he's tall too. He's a 6'5" guy, but I never believe in a guy's record who's 0-0 because, you just never know. When I fought Kahari for the 209 beatdown fight, he was 0-1, but he's had way more fights than that. So I never believe in a record that says it's 0-0 unless you do your homework.
Especially like in the amateur game. Like I don't know, I don't know what happens. Sometimes the fights aren't recorded, and there's no video footage of somebody's fight.
Yeah, some of these events are, possibly really not all of them, but I'm just saying there's a couple of them that are a little bit more underground style, so you don't really get, I guess the official records and stuff.
The next fight you mentioned, but Omar Hussein versus Jordan Christensen, and Omar's from Team Alpha Male as well. I expect probably some people show up from Alpha Male there this Saturday.
Yeah, it's definitely they always do. They always show up. So yeah, this should be a good matchup. Jordan seems like he's from Nevada, I believe. That's what it says on here. He's training out of Extreme Couture. I don't know if that's updated, but it says he's 0-0 here, but I highly doubt it. I think he's had a decent amount of experience. As an amateur, he's had about 4 losses and about 8 wins. So he's had a lot of fights. So I expect this to be possibly Omar's toughest test. But he's looked. I remember when I fought on the same card as him, he looked awesome.
So you had 4 amateur fights. So what do you think the perfect number is before turning pro?
I think it depends on the person, but I think people should realize that if you want to go pro in MMA and be successful, you should have anywhere from 5 to 6 fights as an amateur. The reason why you shouldn't have too much is because you take too much damage. Then you're like that good college football player that everybody's scouting, and then once you get to the pros, you're just beat up, smashed, and because nowadays there's more amateur events than ever. So I definitely think people should pick and choose their battles. Put on a solid, good 5 performances, feel out the cage, get some decent experience, and then not this isn't including Muay Thai fights or boxing fights or jiu-jitsu tournaments. Once you accumulate all that experience, by the time you're doing that, your body should be. If you're not ready within 5 fights and you need a couple more years to develop, I wouldn't recommend even taking fights. I just recommend training, because injuries are a huge part of the sport. Injuries are huge. And if you can't get past a certain amount, your body can only take a certain amount of damage, and once it reaches its peak, when you go pro for a couple years, there's no money in pro either, and it's not like if you get injured in the amateurs, you're covered. You still have to go to work. You still have to do all this. So it's a very risky sport that you need to take calculated steps in. So I think 5 is probably the best number.
I guess it probably depends on wins and losses, right? If it was 5 victories versus 5 losses.
Yeah, definitely. You always have to look at the performances too. But in a perfect world, let's say you go about 2-2, and then you're fighting your 5th fight as an amateur. You got to look at your level of competition. And you need people not around you that are like a bunch of yes men. They tell you the truth. Hey, I don't know if you're ready to go pro or at F. You need somebody to really get in your head and talk to you. And if you fought a bunch of guys that are in the UFC now, but when they're amateur, they beat you. That's a good measuring tool. But at the same time too, as an amateur, you should take as much fights as you can. But just be really cautious of the damage. I think that's the biggest issue. So I turned pro because I ended up going 8-1 as an amateur, 4 or 5 Muay Thai fights, and then 3 or 4 MMA fights, and then I had tons of jiu-jitsu tournament experience. So I think I've gathered enough, experience to go pro, and also the opportunity was fit. But for all the amateurs out there that are wondering when they should go pro, I think a good assessment is 5, depending on opponents too. But at the same time, still, it's just be careful of the damage.
Right. I know in the area in Northern California here, we're getting more pro shows. There was, like you said, quite a bit of amateurs, but now they're starting to do pro amateurs, such as this show, and then a couple more of them are planning to do pro amateur shows.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the more amateurs that turn pro, the more we have to have more pro shows. So it's a bonus.
In the co-main event is a pro fight, Justin Lin versus Jeremiah Castillo. Justin Lin, have you seen any footage on him?
I believe I might have caught a glimpse of a couple of his fights just because of I've seen he's the one that fought Pico. That's right. Yes, I that's the unfortunately that's the only footage I've seen of him. However, he is a veteran. He's had a lot of experience, so I don't expect him to be taken lightly, you know. And so is Jeremiah. Lot of he's got a lot of fight experience, and he is a little bit older. However, still, in my opinion, experience always triumphs any type of talent.
I believe he was 7-0. He's now 7-4. Super aggressive striking, and then also not afraid to pull guard.
Yeah.
Throws up quite a bit of submissions off his back. I don't know if that's gonna haunt him in this fight. Maybe he'll stay down there too long. This fight is for the vacant featherweight title for California Fighting Championship. This card is called Champions Will Be Crowned. There's actually 2 title fights.
Yeah, that looks. I think I'm very curious to see that fight actually. Now that I'm taking a good look at it, the 145 title fight looks really interesting matchup.
Right. He's fought for RFA before a couple of fights. So like, I mean, he's legit.
Yeah, and he also has a slight height advantage, so I'd like to see how Jeremiah gets around that.
Then the main event is Ryan Williams versus Cody Sons for the vacant light heavyweight title. Both these matchups are going to be 5-minute rounds. So Ryan Williams is 5-6, and Cody Sons is 3-8. I heard him speak. He said he's actually 6-8. Like I said, some of the fights are like on reservations and stuff where they don't actually record it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, both guys are big guys. I think they're both very aggressive. I think I've seen a couple of Cody's fights, and I believe I actually have him on Facebook, or I've seen him on Facebook. So this should be a good event. Um, it looks like Ryan's last fight he got a win over Oscar Martinez in a KO. So that's always a bonus when your last fight was a KO, you know, and your next opponent, like, that's the footage that he has to work with, you know. It's like, oh, you're the next guy who you're fighting, this guy that just got a knockout, you know. It plays a mental factor no matter what it is, no matter who it is. So I think that's something that we'll either see Cody take a chance and strike with him, or probably get him down to the mat, and then, you know, we'll see from there.
Right. The matchup you mentioned against Oscar Martinez, he's the promoter of this event. He got knocked out last event at his show. But, man, he just – these knees, he was bringing up these vicious knees, probably about like 15 of them he landed, I think, before he finally got the KO. But, yeah, he's a lot taller. So it was easy for him to bring him up against Oscar. Cody, like I said, he says he's 6-8. He's listed as 3-8. But all by finishes, so he doesn't like anything going to the judges. You know, he's out there to try to end it.
Yeah, he's an aggressive one.
He has a black belt in Taekwondo, a little bit of wrestling, and some boxing. I think wrestling in high school. So he might try to take it down, I think.
These things you never know, because there's a couple ways you could go about it. You know, MMA fighters nowadays are getting more and more smarter with their fight IQ, so you never know what they're gonna do.
So yeah, that's there's 8 fights, 6 amateurs, 2 pro. I believe they're trying to do some grappling and maybe an exhibition match. I heard Oscar speak something about it. I don't know if they're going to allow it though. So, but you're going to get the 8 matches this weekend, April 14th, High Country Arena in Sonora, California. I'm going to be there. Kai's going to be there. We're all going to be there. Then we got going on this weekend as well, Bellator 197. I know a Bellator fighter. So did you make any picks? I normally make picks each week.
Yeah. Did you want to start with the main event or?
I'll call it out here. We'll just start with the. Let's go with the main card. I normally, because I use Tapology and I actually pick it and save it. I do the whole card, but just to save time, and we'll just go over the main card. The first fight is Logan Storley versus Joaquin Buckley. I'm picking Storley to win by decision here.
I have Storley. I actually follow this guy on Instagram a little bit. He's a killer wrestler, but I think Joaquin's going to be so focused on the wrestling that he leaves himself open on the stand-up. So I think Logan gets a knockout.
You know what round you think? Early or later?
I think later on, because Joaquin's going to be defending some takedowns. He's going to be getting tired, and then later on when he fatigues. So I think it's going to be either really early where he catches him, fakes a shot, and catches him with the overhand or a kick. But I think it's most likely it's going to be later on.
The next fight is Kevin Ferguson, but I want to ask you a question. Have you met any Bellator fighters or any officials or anybody yet?
Yeah. I saw actually met. I didn't meet him. I've always known him, but John Fitch. I saw him last Friday at one of the Bellator things, and I train with James Terry. He's on the card with me. Ahmed White is also on the card with me for my Bellator fight. So I have met a couple of them.
I don't know. That's cool. Anyone that you haven't met that you want to meet?
From Bellator, I think if I were to just maybe sit down and one day see lunch and then he just walks by and maybe Ben Henderson, just because I've always been a fan of his fighting style, but nobody really. This sounds weird, but nobody really. Because I grew up watching my brother-in-law Dave Camarillo coach at AKA, so I've always seen all those fighters. So if anything, it's more like it just feels familiar, like, oh hey, how's it going? That type of thing.
Yeah, I get it. No big deal, everyday thing.
I don't want to say it like that, but
the next fight we have Kevin Ferguson Jr. Baby Slice versus Devon Brook. I have Brook by submission round 2. I don't know how his ground game is, Ferguson, so that's the way I'm leaning.
Yeah, I think Ferguson's definitely. I think it's going to be a KO either by Kevin or Devin, just because of they both like to strike, but yes, Brock seems to have a little bit more of a ground game. I don't know. This is a tough one. I think I'm going to go with Ferguson on this one because I think he's been training with AJ and those guys, and Pico. He's been training with those guys a little bit, so I think his game is definitely a little bit more solid. What really actually piqued my interest was when he was talking about his father, how he did like to used to go running or training like that a little bit more. He knows it. What it seems to me is he knows the mistakes that his father has made in the past in fighting. So he kind of like recognized that and he wants to change it. So because of that, that shows me more of a martial artist mentality. So that's going to be dangerous. So I'm not counting him out.
Right on. Hey, what's up with the tape delay on Bellator here on the West Coast?
I have no idea about that. I'm not an actual official or anything, so I wouldn't know.
Man, that's hard. Like I literally have to stay off the internet for like 3 hours to catch it.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. Maybe when I get higher up in Bellator, I can ask them.
Yeah, that's your first change.
Yeah.
The co-main event is AJ McKee versus Justin Lawrence. Before we get into that matchup, though, you mentioned she's training with Baby Slice. So having a teammate, you said that you're going to have a teammate competing at the same event. Does that help or does that hinder? Does that take away the attention from you, or does that help get everybody ready at the same time?
It depends on the camp. If you're from a camp that you guys aren't really like family, then it definitely hinders you. But they're really good friends. And McKee is trained by his father, and his father gives him a lot of attention. And then I think it really helps. I think it helps tremendously because even though you go in there and fight alone, you're not bringing yourself like alone. You're with a bunch of people that support you and that have confidence in you. When you get support like that, it's very hard to deny that. So I think with AJ having that and then his teammate training with him, going through the pain and misery, it's a little bit like the hard rough training sessions. I think it's easier to correlate with each other and like, hey, you had a rough day too. Yeah, I had a rough day too. So I think the hard work will pay off.
Right. It's almost like you get a bond and then you hold each other accountable. Like, you don't want to do that last lap or that last set of push-ups, but the guy next to you is doing it, so you have to.
Exactly. Sometimes it's a little bit of a challenge too. It's like, hey, you did one more push-up than me. I'm going to do one more than you, and then you go back and forth, and you guys elevate each other's game.
I'm picking McKee by decision in this one. I think he's just going to be too much for him.
I think McKee's power plays a difference in this fight. However, Justin Lawrence trains with Dominic Cruz and Jeremy Stevens and so many others at Alliance. If anybody were to beat AJ right now, I think it'd be him just because of the matchup wise. He's dangerous. It doesn't matter who you are. If you fought Justin Lawrence, there was a chance that he might put you out any time in the fight. I think he's just that dangerous. We saw it on The Ultimate Fighter, and I've seen him. Yeah, he's just a dangerous matchup. He reminds me of Jeremy Stevens a little bit, just of how dangerous he is. However, I'm gonna go with AJ on this one just because you're undefeated. Sure, that gives you pressure, but at the same time, AJ's been fighting for how long now, and he likes pressure. He dwells in it. He's a superstar. He's a rock star, so he likes that mentality. So I definitely think the lights aren't gonna catch him off guard or anything. So I do have him beating Justin Lawrence by way of KO. But that's just the assumption. I think Lawrence is going to give him a tough fight.
He almost has like something to prove, or like this is his moment. He's in the co-main event to become a star.
Yeah, definitely. And Lawrence too is Lawrence has that tendency where he's like, we go all out right now. And if you do with AJ and you make one mistake, it's just game over. But it's vice versa too. However, I think based off fight IQ, and this is no diss, but I think AJ has a little bit of a higher fight IQ because he's willing to wait and be patient at times, and he's very tactical. Whereas Lawrence he can bully you, so he plays to his strengths a little bit more. So that might actually be a downfall. So I don't know.
You're talking yourself out of it.
Yeah.
The main event, we got Michael Chandler versus Brandon Gertz. This one should be pretty good. I think Chandler's definitely on trying to get his title back. He's not worried about it. He says he's not, but he's going to go out there, put on a show. I'm predicting Chandler KO first round.
I think Chandler's going to out wrestle him and just tire him out. And then when he's tired, just KO him. Actually, I'm sorry, submit him. I think he's going to submit him just because you don't want to stand with Brandon Gertz. We saw, I think, what was it, a couple fights ago where he had that nasty cut. And it's just, he likes that. He's a barbarian. He's got one hit KO power. He's kind of like the AJ McKee style fight, and Lawrence fight. He's just a bad matchup, like dangerous. He could KO you at any point. But I think Michael Chandler's been working with Henry Hooft at the kickboxing, that gym that they're with. I believe he's training with Logan as well, Storley. So they're both, their striking has elevated immensely. So I don't think he's going to go off game plan and stand up with Brandon. And I think Chandler's just too smart, and his pace is just too fast. I don't think anybody could last with that pace. He broke Eddie Alvarez in one of their fights, so that's insane. So I got Michael Chandler by third round submission.
Well, yeah, I was there when he fought Benson Henderson and did that suplex. Oh man, I jumped up. I was screaming. I was there as a fan. I wasn't covering it, but man, that was awesome.
Yeah, he's dangerous.
Then moving over to Fox on UFC on Fox. I don't know why I keep saying Fox. 29. Does it make a difference to you on whether it's on FS1 or Fox?
I don't think it matters. Not to me at least. I don't really have a preference on that.
People like to say, "Oh, it's on Big Fox. We should have bigger fights." But I mean, they're both on. I get them both channels.
Yeah.
Do you have Fight Pass? Do you watch the prelims there?
Yeah, occasionally here and there. I don't watch too much fights just because it's actually kind of unless like certain fighters, like a couple of names that I might pay attention to, but um it's actually really weird. My mentality is, when those motivational speakers, those videos on YouTube that you could just find randomly, or those people that are super successful and they tell you, how to be. I just feel like if you don't discover it on your own path, it's kind of like you're just kind of like hearing what you want to hear, that type of thing. So I don't know. I'm just weird like that. I don't want to see a fighter fight sometimes and copy a style. I want to kind of figure it out my way. I'm a little stubborn like that. I like doing things my way.
Right. I see. You don't want any influence, whether it's good or bad. You just want to be you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't understand those inspirational quotes. I mean, if something on the internet like that is going to change you, I don't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to read that quote and now I'm going to be a new person. I don't know. There's so much, negative stuff. So I guess that's good that it's positive.
Yeah.
The main card here, we got Michelle Watterson, the Karate Hottie versus Courtney Casey. This ought to be pretty good to open up the main card. I have Casey by decision, which I believe she is the underdog in this one.
I think because Michelle Watterson she's lost her last two fights. I think she's got something to prove. And based off the way this matchup is stylistically, I think Michelle Watterson has the more fight experience. So when you get to a point in your career where you're both fighters are coming off losses and they're like, desperate for a win, I think the fighter with the more experience knows how to control the pace and tempo and win off the points. And also, Michelle Watterson knows how to win off points very well because she used to be a Taekwondo, I believe, point karate as well, fighter. So when you play the point sparring style, if it goes, all three rounds, it's a dangerous matchup because they just know how to win by points. You just get frustrated. So I think Michelle Watterson has this by a close decision.
Right. You mentioned she has the last two losses is to Tisa Torres and to Rose Namajunas. So it's not like she's just losing to anybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then Courtney Casey had that split decision with Felice Herrig, that's where they're like spitting blood and flipping each other off.
Yeah. That was she's definitely a grinder, but if based off what she did during that fight, you could just tell she's fueled by the fight, whereas Michelle Watterson is a little bit more perhaps disciplined in a sense. And it's no diss to anybody or anything like that. I'm just going based off the fight.
Next matchup, Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. I messed that name up. But the last airbender, everyone's on this hype train. What do you think?
It's real. Style bender. This guy is a killer. I have him by way of knockout. I've seen a lot of his fights. He's so lanky. That's the problem with him. He's so long for his weight class. He's like a John Jones in the middleweight. And it's no joke. There's no like false hype or hype train. It's just real. He's had over 100 kickboxing fights or / Muay Thai fights. He's coming into MMA on a 12-win fight streak. He's not just fighting scrubs. He fought he fought some tough guys, and he made them look not tough. You know what I'm saying? So he's definitely a bad matchup. He can even defend takedowns too. I saw the Melvin Gillard fight. He was defending takedowns. That's one guy that I watched. That's Stylebender is one guy that I watched, not to learn from him because my style doesn't fit his because he's too lanky, but is to watch how I could beat somebody like him, you know? And so far it's been kind of rough because nobody's been able to do it. So, you know, he's legit. Now Marvin, I think he's a good fighter too. I actually have seen a couple of his fights, but other than there's nothing that really stands out that makes me think he could end the fight with one move or one submission. To me, if he was going to win, he would either have to clip Israel, but Israel has a long guard that's really hard to break, or take him down for the whole three rounds and just hold him there and get him tired. But nobody has really been able to take him down, so it's like, can he solve that riddle? You know?
Do you think this is one of the things where he's just almost untouchable, and then eventually gets too cocky and then gets clipped, or he knows his limits and he's going to play it somewhat safe?
I think based off the way he fights in his training, he's definitely not one of those guys that he's brash. Don't get me wrong, his character, but if you watch his fights, he's not going in there and like KOing people left and right with just like, you know, rock 'em, sock 'em robots. It's very technical. He's piecing people up very technically. So I think he's very smart, and I don't think he's gonna get overconfident in his mindset. He has a certain confidence that he knows when to pick his shots and when not to. And when you have over 100 fights, I don't think you can go into, you know, and be 12-0 in MMA and go, oh yeah, you know what, I'm the king of the world. He doesn't have the belt yet. He's not even close. This is just his second UFC fight, so I think he's got more to prove, and he's like, you know, driven.
Yeah, co-main event is Carlos Condit versus Alex Oliveira. It was supposed to be Mike Brown. He's injured. He's out of it, so it's now Cowboy, and I'm picking Cowboy by decision.
Cowboy's been pretty good. He's had a couple good performances. He actually beat Will Brooks, and I was very surprised because Will Brooks I like that guy. That guy's pretty good. But I was surprised how the way the fight went. You know, regardless of the controversial whatever happened. Point is, Will Brooks wasn't able to take him down and just, you know, beat him like that. It wasn't an easy fight. However, I'm still going to go with Carlos Condit just because I've seen so many of his fights where you count him out and he just comes back out of nowhere, you know? Granted, he hasn't looked the same ever since his knee injury, but I feel like it's time. Time has kind of gone by where he kind of has his footing back now. Maybe his injury affected him in the past performances, but I think Cowboy is good, but Condit's lankiness might present an issue to him, and Condit's slickness. You know, Condit's one of those guys where he doesn't look super fast and athletic, but he can move. You know, his timing is really good. His ground game is really slick. So if, you know, Oliveira decides to take him down, he might get caught in a submission. You never know. Condit it was hard to finish him. The only guy that's finished him was Woodley. In recent years, he lost to Damian Maia by choke, but it's Damian Maia. But he lost to Lawler by split decision, and he lost to Neil Magny by decision. So it's kind of like he's tough. He's super tough. So I'd like to see. I'm very interested in this fight, but I think Condit's got it.
I don't know. I think Condit's on the downslope, but
I have a feeling like that too, but he hasn't shown any signs where he's getting like destroyed. You know, that Magny fight was even like, you know, it was a good fight, but I didn't really see him. I think it's more mental than anything. I don't really see a physical lack of skills.
Then the main event, Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. It should be a bloodbath. What do you think?
I got Justin Gaethje on that one. I got Justin Gaethje because Dustin Poirier, when he fought Eddie Alvarez, he had him hurt. But then the way he picks his shots on finishing his opponent, it's very questionable. I don't know. It's just I think once Dustin gets excited, because his hands are really good, so he could really piece up Justin Gaethje. But man, that guy's chin is off. Like that guy's chin is. I don't know what it is. He can take a truck to the face. You know, this guy's insane. So I have him beating Dustin because the way Justin fights, he loves slinging his overhands and inside kicks. Poirier stands up a little bit taller, and I think those kicks are going to get to him. And he's a southpaw, so that overhand is a weapon against Dustin because Dustin likes to keep it really technical. And when you fight a guy like Justin Gaethje who's wild, that technicality might not benefit you in in the long run because it's too small. The gloves are too small. I think it's going to break through Dustin's guard, and it might catch him. So I got Gaethje by KO, but I like both fighters a lot.
Yeah, Justin just suffered his first defeat. He was knocked out. I don't know. You think that plays any factor into it? Like once you get knocked out, you're more successful, or about to get knocked out, or?
Yeah, I think you're definitely more vulnerable, and I definitely think he after that last fight, he realized he wasn't invincible. Like previously where he was like, yeah, I'm going to 10 more fights before I retire or anything like that. But Justin Gaethje is a madhouse, man. That guy's insane. So I don't think that'll affect him too much. And also he's seen Poirier get KO'd before. So that's definitely a confidence factor, He's like, I can definitely do this. It's not like Poirier's invincible or Eddie Alvarez where they both can sustain a lot of damage. Poirier's been KO'd before, so it's not impossible. And Gaethje has a lot of KO power.
Then knowing that he's not easy to finish, if he does rock him, do you suggest, like you said, his shots are questionable? Do you think he should swarm in or pick his shots?
He should definitely pick his shots because with that Eddie Alvarez fight, he could have finished it if he backed off a little bit in terms of pressure off Eddie Alvarez and just pick his shot. But then Eddie Alvarez came back and clipped him. So then both guys are now wobbly. And then Poirier doesn't really move his head offline too much when he's on the defensive. He just kind of keeps his guard up. So when you get somebody like Justin Gaethje, when you rock him and he's still on his feet and Poirier charges in, that's when he gets clipped. You saw the Michael Johnson fight, he went in and he got countered over the top. So I think Poirier has really precise striking. Ever since he fought Conor, his striking has been on another level. And he realized his weakness in striking because even when Conor fought him, he did a double jab overhand. The overhand left came over the top of his jab. So ever since then, he's been fixing up his boxing. He's been piecing people up. But I still think that there's that window of opportunity. He has worked on his defense tremendous amounts, but I still think Gaethje has that window, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just hope he goes with the leg kicks. He's so devastating with those leg kicks.
I don't understand how a wrestler has that powerful of a leg kick, other than like Woodley. Woodley has a really powerful leg kick, but he's just explosive.
Yeah, he's got quads and everything.
Yeah, I don't know. Justin Gaethje's leg kicks are insanely powerful. He puts people down, and he doesn't care if you check him. He'll just throw them anyways. So that's scary.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, like you said, he gets wild, and then you have no choice. Either you turtle up or you start swinging too, and then that kind of just plays into him. Yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, you either play a point fighting game with him and just have him stalk you and chase you, or you get in a firefight with him. But the odds are on his side, because he's fought 19 times and he's won 18 fights where they've been all firefights, and he's won them all. So,
right. And we're sitting here talking about his striking. His wrestling is on point. He's picking people up and slamming them too, if you haven't seen it in his previous fights.
Yeah, that's super dangerous. So he could do that with Poirier too. Take Poirier down, and once he gets tired, just start slamming on him because, that's a very that's a wrestler fight move where they just fighting game plan where they take you down, and then once you get tired, they just start beating you up after, so it's dangerous.
Right on. So that's it for UFC on Fox 29. We covered Bellator 197 going down this weekend. Of course, California Fighting Championships 2 champions will be crowned is going on this Saturday at Sonora, California. I believe tickets are still available. So make sure you hit that up. This show's going to be pretty cool. I think 8 matches guaranteed or some, and then probably more. I don't want to say guaranteed because anything could happen, but right now they have 8 planned.
Yeah.
And then before we get out of here, though, where can the fans find you at, Khai?
They can find me on Instagram at Khai_the_shadow_woo, and also on Facebook if they just type in my name, Khai Wu. I have my Chinese name next to it, and that's my athlete page that's been growing thanks to a lot of people showing support. And I'm mainly on Instagram and Facebook.
So you'll be fighting May 12th at the SAP Arena for Bellator 199. Wow, man, big matchup. I'm so excited for you, dude.
Thank you. It was, yeah, I'm excited too. It's always kind of been in my head that I was like, all right, my next fight after Taiwan, I know Bellator's coming back because there's rumors floating around, and I have a couple of inside sources, but they're telling me like Bellator's going to come back to San Jose, and I'm like, I definitely think I could get on that card, especially with my win in Taiwan internationally, and based off other things, my fighting style. Who doesn't love a knockout artist, right?
Right. I think there's tickets probably still available. Do you have a link or something?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions about getting tickets from me or want to come out and show some support, they could just contact me personally through Instagram or Facebook, and I can give them all the info from there.
Right on. I appreciate it for stepping in. This is a special episode of MMA Live Thursday night stream. We covered quite a bit, made some picks. That's awesome. I appreciate you doing that. Like we said, you're going to be there with me on Saturday watching the fights, going over that. I'm going to be recording it. We're going to try to do some commentary. Hopefully that works out well. This is a kind of big step for me and for you as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm really excited to do this because a lot of times when my friends, before they started training, I would have to do commentary on the fights with them. So it's just like it's going to be exciting to do it alongside with you. When I got interviewed by you before, that's the first pre-fight interview I've ever done. It was with you. So I'm really excited to do that.
Right on. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And then I will be on Split Decision tomorrow at 3 p.m. on Facebook Live, and then they also upload it on YouTube later. But I'm going to be covering more in detail CFC 2, going over that, and then whatever shenanigans they have going on.
Awesome. That sounds great.
All right, Khai, I appreciate your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know this was a little bit longer. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and I'll see you at the fights.